ようこそ砂と黄金の国エジプトへ。はい、お初にお目にかけます。地球上のすべての人し生きるものの嫌われ者キモイマン37と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。というわけでして、今回ですねお送りさせていただきます。タイトルはこちら、アサシンクリードオリジンズ、ディスカバリーツアーというわけでして、今回で動画本数的に言うと、7本のですね、今回も頑張ってね楽しく、こちらのレダ君と、旅をしていきたいなと思います。で、前回でね、ちょっとお話しさせていただいたんですが、ですね、今回こちらですね、あとこれ2箇所なんですけど、これをね、レダ君で回ったら、次はですね、こっち、カノポス州ですね、こちらの方にね、移動して、またこちらのこういうところをね、ちょっと旅していきたいなと思います。で、やらせていただくこっちにね、移動した暁には、ナビゲーターを、レーダー君じゃなくてね、別のキャラクターに変えるっていうことでね、やらせていただきたいなと思いますので、どうか、ご理解ご了承のほどよろしくお願いいたします。で、ですね、ディスカバリーツアーですね、やらせていただくときは、毎回ノーマイクでね、やらせていただいておりますので、今回もノーマイクでやらせていただきたいなと思います。また、終わりしなにですね、ご挨拶の方をさせていただきたいなと思いますので、何卒ご理解ご了承のほどよろしくお願いいたします。では、また後ほど、せいせい、バイバイ。
Welcome to Temples and Rituals of Ancient Egypt. During rituals and festivals, the god was carried on a solar barge between the areas of a temple or the temples of different cities. Funerary carvings and paintings covering thousands of years, as well as the Book of the Dead, depict the same ship and oar design. Solar barges have been uncovered near or within several pharaohs' tombs. They were intended to carry the pharaoh into the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians believed that Ra, the sun god, traveled the skies in a boat known as the solar barge. The solar barge was believed to cross over to mythological lands. The god Ra believed mankind was conspiring against him. He ordered Sekhmet, the lion-headed war goddess, to kill all humans. To his chagrin, Ra quickly realized that with all humans gone, there would be no one left to worship him. In order to stop the rampaging Sekhmet, beer was brewed and dyed red with pomegranate juice to resemble blood. Sekhmet drank every drop of the brew she could find, eventually passing out drunk. When she awoke, she was calmer, and her lion visage had changed into Bastet. The Festival of Drunkenness was celebrated in honor of that myth. Unlike the daily rituals that took place in the temple and were performed by priests, festivals allowed the entire population of the city to participate. Festivals helped mark the passing of the seasons in the agricultural calendar. In reflecting the cycles of life, festivals offered a sense of consistency and structure for the regular citizens, thus reinforcing the sense of order that pharaohs were to provide for the citizens of Egypt as part of their godly duties. The importance of these festivals is demonstrated by their longevity. Records show that Osiris festivals occurred for more than 2,000 years. Some festivals serve to reinforce state control and promote the king's reign. Both the Opet and Sed Jubilee festivals were specifically intended to celebrate the renewal of the king's power. The temple hierarchy consisted of high priests, several types of priests, scribes, and servants. The high priest was known as the prophet. Some divinities had up to 4 prophets, and they were the ones to perform the most advanced and complex rituals. Egyptian priests were not confined to solely religious tasks, and in fact had crucial roles in Egypt's administration, most of which served to reaffirm the pharaoh as the proper vessel for the gods. Their focus within the temple was centered on the proper conduct of daily divine rituals, rather than as custodians of dogma or the indoctrination of individuals. Scribes were custodians of the sacred sciences. Some priests were associated with the funeral rites and were considered the group with medical knowledge. The servants of the Ka were low-ranking priests who carried food and offerings in funerary rituals. Lector priests were distinguished by their ability to read, and their main duty was to recite specialized religious texts in both temple and funerary rituals. Priests and all the officials who served the temple worked only 3 months a year, with each period separated by a quarter of inactivity, at least within the temple compound. Each outgoing group handed over the temple and their tools to the newcomers. Only the high priesthood remained in permanent office within the temple. The most sacred part of the temple was referred to as Jesser Jesseru, the Holy of Holies. The most sacred inner sanctuary was where the shrine to the temple deity was located. Only priests were allowed within. Offerings were given, and rituals unseen by even the pharaoh were performed. While the team chose to allow any character access to this space in some game temples, normally it was reserved for priests alone. Pharaohs and their priests often chose the site of these sacred temples because of some mythological connection or an alignment with the cardinal points and certain stars. Once selected, a foundation ritual was performed. The pharaoh was required to complete 10 steps in the ritual, which required a mix of offerings as well as specific construction techniques. Once the temple was complete, construction of the chamber containing the shrine, or naos, began. The naos was where the god statue stood. The representation of the deity was usually in stone or wood and decorated with gold, silver, and precious stones. Smaller temples had only one naos, while larger complexes, such as the Temple of Karnak, had many chambers to honor gods, such as Amun, Ta, and Osiris. Each statue was believed to be a receptacle for the presence or essence of the god's Ka, enabling it to take a physical form. Through the statue, the god came to the shrine to eat, drink, and communicate with the pharaoh, or with the priests standing in for the pharaoh.
رأي ونوتين حمري ردت هي نجهل
Welcome to Ancient Egyptian Fashions. Learning what life was like for ancient Egyptians presents many differences, and yet also surprising similarities to how people might live today. Understanding the daily lives of regular citizens so many thousands of years ago is ultimately what connects us as human beings. Jewelry was a popular item among ancient Egyptians of all social standing. Both men and women wore earrings, rings, and bracelets. Status determined how much jewelry a person wore and what it was made of. Common folk wore pearl necklaces, simple bracelets, and leather bangles. Brightly colored earthenware and glass paste were a favorite enhancement. The jewelry of the elite was made from gold, silver, and other precious stones. Because gold never lost its shine, it was considered akin to the flesh of the gods. Wide jeweled collars were a favorite. Made with rows of beads formed into patterns of animals or flowers, the soft chiming sounds they made were thought to appease the gods. Though idealized, tomb paintings are a catalog of the changing fashions of ancient Egypt from the Old to the New Kingdom. Egyptians took appearance and cleanliness very seriously and were diligent about their fashion, hair, and jewelry as well as their grooming habits. The fabric of ancient Egyptian clothing was almost entirely made from various grades of linen. Linen was commonly white, draped over the body, and cinched at the waist, though some garments were sewn or tailored. Wealthy men wore long tunics, loincloths, or kilts, while poor men only wore loincloths. Women wore long dresses, with differences residing in the quality of the fabric, depending on social status. Egyptians commonly went barefoot, but could also wear sandals made from papyrus fiber or leather. Cosmetics, including concoctions to prevent body odor and bad breath, were an integral part of everyday life for Egyptians. Used by both men and women, cosmetics were used as moisturizing ointments and sun protection as much as for beautification. Red ochre, a natural clay, was the most readily available cosmetic to tint lips and cheeks. Henna was used on nails and lips, and as hair coloring. It was also favored by richer women to decorate their palms and the soles of their feet. Egyptians believed coal had magical powers, wearing it as black eyeliner to protect their eyes from the sun and to prevent eye infections from particles in the flooded Nile River. A special green coal, made from ground malachite, was worn for ceremonies and religious rituals. Women and teenage girls wore their hair long and often braided. Wealthier women included carved combs or hairpins. The length of men's hair rarely dropped past the shoulders. They were mostly clean-shaven during the dynastic period, a trend began by the elite and soon adopted by the general populace. Queen Hatshepsut donned an artificial beard when she became pharaoh. Wigs were very popular, used for special occasions or to conceal gray hair or baldness. They were fastened in place with beeswax. The most expensive wigs were made from human hair and reserved for royalty. Other wigs were composed of linen, wool, or animal hair. Prepubescent children generally had their heads shaved. Young girls kept some strands intact, while young boys had a braid worn on the side.
はい、というわけでして、今回ですね、気分も良さそうなので、この辺で終了させていただきたいなと思います。ここまでご視聴いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。そしてここまでお付き合いくださいましてお疲れ様でした。ありがとうございました。そうですね、今回まででね、レダー君との、このエジプトの旅は、一旦終了してしまうのですが、またね、次回から別の、ナビゲーターさんでやらせていただきたいなと思いますのでね、またその新しいナビゲーターさんと、旅をするのが自分的にはすごく楽しみだなと思いましたね。はい。ですね、自分ですね、これ以外にも、他にもね、いくつかシリーズ動画に出させていただいておりまして、ウィッチャー3ワイルドハント、ファイナルファンタジー15、狼絶景版に、あと死因ですね。で、あとはザ・シルバーケースと出させていただいております。で、それ以外にですね、ブロードキャスト配信なんですが、ごめんなさいね、ホライゾンゼロドーンで、新三国無双8、ファークライ5に、バットマン、アーカム、アサイラムなどやらせていただいております。で、ブロードキャスト配信させていただくにせよ、今回みたいにね、動画をアップさせていただくにせよ、必ず事前に自分がやらせていただいております、Twitter 等で、ご報告させていただいております。毎回動画説明欄ですね、自分がやらせていただいております、各種 SNS の URL をリンクっていう形でもって貼らせていただいております。沖縄の方も気になりましたら構いませんので、もしよろしければぜひ、そちらの方もチェックされてみてください。よろしくお願いいたします。ですね、今回ですね、奇跡的にもこちらの動画をご視聴くださった方の中で、自分みたいなのもいいなと思っていただけたら構いませんので、チャンネル登録、あとの動画の高評価等をぜひよろしくお願いいたします。というわけでして、今回、小小生キモイマン37がお送りさせていただきました。アサシンクリードオリジンズ、ディスカバリーツアー、動画本数的に言うと7本目ですね、これで終了させていただきたいなと思います。改めまして、ここまでご視聴いただきまして誠にありがとうございました。そしてここまでお付き合いくださいましてお疲れ様でした。ありがとうございました。また次回ですね、8本目ですね、皆様にお会いできることを楽しみに今回はこれで失礼させていただきます。ありがとうございました。バイバイ。